Synapse Squatters! Welcome back to Psych Whizzes. We are Shruti,
Riley,
and Liz. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of empathy levels in the brain and the relationship to development of psychopathic behavior. While talking about this topic, we also want to answer the question that one of our dear followers had commented on a previous post. Should schools offer brain screenings to measure empathetic traits to identify and prevent empathy deficits from developing into psychopathic behavior? Before we jump into further detail, here's our answer to the question. No, we do not agree that schools should offer brain screenings. However, we agree that schools should offer diagnostic tests to measure for empathetic traits. We suggest that this should happen in school every 2 years up through high school, as by this time most people have developed empathetic traits. This would make it easier to pinpoint who has a deficit. For those people, we propose incorporating empathy-focused classes in school to tackle deficits before they escalate into severe issues. Though not a complete solution, exposure to empathy can assist in regulating urges towards psychopathic behavior, which lowers dangerous risks in the future.
Okay, so how can empathy even be seen in the brain? So recent studies have suggested that empathy may be based on something called mirroring systems or the mirror neuron systems, abbreviated as MNS, and these usually take place in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, inferior parietal lobe, inferior frontal gyrus, and the superior temporal sulcus. And mirror neurons have been said to have a role in action learning, action understanding, imitation learning, and the simulation of learning through other people's behavior. And development behavior data show that imitative learning is really important in developing social cognitive skills that then lead to the development of empathy.
What are empathy deficits, and how do we know that a lack of empathy can lead to psychopathy? People with empathy deficits are characterized as those who tend to focus on their own needs and neglect other people's emotions, even those of close friends and family. This is due to a deficiency in the brain that cannot be controlled, but can be regulated when people who face this are placed in the right environment. The study, Mirror Neurons and Empathy-Related Regions in Psychopathy, Systematic Review, Meta-Analysis, and Working Model, connects the mirror neurons as the place in the brain where empathy develops and how it relates to having psychopathic traits. The study, through fMRIs, looks at regions of the brain associated with the mirror neuron system. This includes the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, inferior parietal lobe, inferior frontal gyrus, and superior temporal sulcus. For people with psychopathic traits, there was less activity in these areas of the brain. The results from the study provide support that the mirror neuron system is altered in psychopathy, and their relationship with affective empathy deficits is discussed. Empathy deficits lead to the brain functioning differently in the places listed above. These differences cause psychopathic traits to be exhibited, and that is why it is important to have empathy classes in school. It is especially important at a young age because the brain is still developing and can learn behaviors if exposed to it continually.
It is important to check for empathy deficits because psychopathy is one of the leading causes of criminal behavior. According to the study, Psychopathy and Dangerousness, an umbrella review and meta-analysis, researchers reached the results that the presence of psychopathic traits can be a predictor of dangerous behaviors. These results help support more focused attention on psychopathic traits in public health, predicting dangerousness, and a resource for prevention. The meta-analysis looked at the connection between psychopaths and dangerous and aggressive actions. This involved approximately 77,000 participants, and the relationship between the two variables was consistent throughout most of the studies. This shows that aggressive actions and traits align with psychopathy, and therefore, the earlier the caught, the better. The reason we want to check for these deficits in childhood is because empathy deficits in childhood can be overcome throughout aging. This idea is shown in the source Talk the Talk, the relationship of psychopathic traits to deficits in empathy across childhood. To give background to this study, they write, psychopathy is characterized by profound deficits in human tendency to feel and care about what other people feel, often known as affective empathy. The study's findings show how how psychopathy is associated with severe deficits in affective empathy for males of all ages. This study also finds that psychopathic traits are linked to deficits in cognitive empathy in childhood for both sexes. This study's findings also mention these deficits can be overcome during the pubertal years. In relation to our answer, this means that empathetic deficits can be improved upon up until high school, which is why we want to diagnose and offer empathy workshops early on. This early intervention in measuring empathy deficits is beneficial as it can prevent the development of dangerous psychopathic traits by promoting pro-social behavior.
So the question you may be asking now is, why do we think that empathy classes and diagnostic tests can instill pro-social behavior to then prevent dangerous psychopathic behavior? So while talking about diagnostic tests, we hope to use EAS, recognized by many studies as a valid and reliable measurement tool that assesses the empathy levels of individuals in 3 different dimensions. So one being social interaction, the second being cognitive behavior, and the last area being emotional identification. So EAS can be used as a tool to indicate the need for any intervention, such as the use of classes or special attention targeted towards these kids who score relatively lower on these tests. As for the implementation of empathy classes, we think this could be beneficial to prevent asocial behavior and then prevent the development of dangerous psychopathic behavior. So one study that supports this comes from the article, I'll put the title right here. And in this study, we see a significant increase in the empathy levels of these students post ASE classes. So let me take you a little deeper into this study. So in this study, students of 9 secondary schools participated in these ASE programs, which are essentially these empathy encouragement classes. And so the results found was that these classes led to higher empathy, which in turn was indirectly linked with greater pro-social responding, social responsibility, and emotional efficacy. To summarize our answer to your question, no, we don't agree that schools should offer brain screenings in particular. However, we do agree that schools should offer diagnostic tests to measure for empathetic traits up through high school, because this is the window where kids usually begin to develop empathetic traits and fill up any empathetic deficits that they might have. So we also want to mention that brain scanning is expensive and uncomfortable for kids. Thus, this is another reason why it's not feasible in testing students for traits of empathy. Remember that the lack of empathy does not necessarily indicate that an individual is a psychopath. However, more often than not, this could lead to or progress into psychopathic behavior if not dealt with correctly. Which is why we want diagnostic tests to be present in schools, as well as classes that teach empathy, so that some deficits can be overcome at a young age before they develop into psychotic behavior. While this won't completely solve the problem of psychopathy, as these behaviors are also linked to brain functions, exposure and empathy can aid in helping the brain regulate the urges of psychotic behavior. So thank you for watching Synapse Squad. We hope you enjoyed our video. Comment down for more questions and we will answer them in our next video. Bye!